Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. Happy Monday. What's going on over there, Ben?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm solid. Very solid.
Good.
You?
Great.
Good weekend?
Life's good.
You said it went by fast?
It was quick. I enjoyed a lot of football on Saturday and a little yard work and some NFL yesterday, but life is good.
Good. Yeah. It was a good football weekend. It was a lot of fun. Obviously, and we'll dive into it, but the two biggest wins on the same weekend for Utah and BYU ever, which is pretty crazy. I mean, the bar actually isn't that high, but
Big 12?
no, I mean, as far as big wins go on the same weekend, Utah and BYU might have been probably, if you can think of one, I'd be happy to hear it, the biggest weekend ever. Because none of BYU's big wins during independence count.
Okay. I'll kind of listen to that, but yeah, I get what you're saying. They're all exhibition games.
And then when they were in the Mountain West, there were never that many good teams in the league to have them play two ranked teams, for example, on the same weekend. Now, somebody might find some random non-conference whatever, but I think non-conference means way less. And I do. I mean, what did BYU's big wins in independence? I mean, if you want to rattle them off, what did they really do for anybody? I mean, nothing.
I think you're discounting the weekend in 2019 when BYU beat number 24 USC in overtime and Utah beat Idaho State 31-0. You might be sleeping on Idaho State.
A little bit. I do like the Bengals. But like when Utah was playing TCU on a weekend, BYU wasn't playing another ranked team. You know what I mean?
No.
They were playing New Mexico or Wyoming or whatever.
Well, all of BYU's good games in independence were early because they were non-conference for the other team. So they would be willing to play BYU.
For the most part, they played. Didn't they play Wisconsin late in the year one year? Their win over Michigan State was kind of in the middle of the year. I mean, there are exceptions, but I got your point.
So Utah at that same time was playing nobody. Utah was playing Idaho State when BYU was playing USC. So, yeah, they did not align very well. Okay, I'll listen to that. I thought you meant independently their best wins ever. No.
No,
but yes, combined, I believe it. It's one of the better weekends we've ever had.
Although wins over top 15 teams, neither Utah nor BYU has a ton of those, actually.
Agreed. Yeah.
So to get those kind of wins in the same weekend and actually have a matter for a conference race is really sweet.
Hey, man, I've tried to ride it a bunch. I've tried to say it a lot. We're just in a golden era of sports right now in our state, and I hope fans can step back and take a 30,000-foot view of there was an NHL hockey game for a Utah hockey team yesterday. There's a Utah hockey home game debuting in the preseason tonight at the Delta Center. BYU and Utah are beating top 15 opponents. We're a week away from the Jazz season, which I understand if you're not excited for the Jazz season. But, you know, we've got a new baseball stadium being built, and I get some people are sad it's leaving downtown, but it's investment in sports locally. There might be a Major League Baseball team in the next 10 years. Like, life is good. Life is really good to be a sports fan in the state of Utah right now.
So let me tell you two quick stories, and then we'll jump into it.
RSL's very good. Sorry, just to sleep on RSL.
I know you went to the Bees game on what, Friday?
Thursday.
I went to the Bees game on Saturday. And we were lucky enough, thanks to Naz's friends, we had suite tickets in the suite. And guess who I ran into in the can?
Who, Jake?
Steve Starks.
Oh, okay.
But I was telling Christian this. It's funny. Christian's like, oh, you know, how's Steve doing or whatever? And I was like, oh, I think he's doing fine. But it's not like we had a chance to catch up because we ran into each other in the restroom.
Yeah.
But he was on his way out. I was on my way in. But here's the variable. My 3-year-old had to go.
So you took the daughter in.
So it's like, you know, Steve, who I like personally, I worked for a long time and who's a great dude I'd love to catch up with, but also, yeah, important guy.
Yeah.
You know, just the head of the Larry H. Miller organization,
was the president of the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, right. But, like, I got a 3-year-old that's got to go potty. You know what I mean? That's the trump card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could have run into dang Bruce Springsteen, and it would have been like, Bruce, I'd been dying to meet you my entire life, but I got to go, bro.
My 3-year-old doesn't know who the boss is.
You know what I mean?
She's the boss.
She's the boss.
She's the boss.
And she told me she's got to go potty. We're moving, dude.
We're not going to ruin this baseball game.
We are totally moving.
Yeah.
So I did get a chance to say hello briefly to Steve. He looked good.
I like Steve.
And then speaking of my 3-year-old, you'll get a kick out of this because you have to deal with me being somewhat of a contrarian on a daily basis. Quite literally have to deal with it probably more than anybody else. Apologies to you.
I like it.
But we're sitting down to watch the Utah-Oklahoma State game as a family. My family doesn't always join me in watching sports, but they did in this particular moment. And Maggie goes, I'm rooting for the orange team. And my 7-year-old Sadie goes, Maggie, the red team is from here. That's a team from Utah. And then my wife weighs in and says, yeah, that's where Mom graduated law school. And Maggie thinks about it for a second and goes, I'm rooting for the orange team.
The orange team.
At that moment, I was like, you really are my kid.
Yep.
You 100% are my child. And that is awesome.
That's great. She didn't have a good day, unfortunately.
No, but I thought, well, she ceased caring in about
2 drives.
Yeah, I'm not even that.
Yeah.
It was on to Magnetiles or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But at that moment, she was like, I'm rooting for the orange
I'm gonna
team.
plant my flag.
And then my daughter tries to correct her and say, no, you really want the red team. She honestly thought about it. You could see her thinking about it. She's like, I'm rooting for the orange team.
I'm going to trust my gut on this one. That's great.
I was like, you are my kid. That is not the mail carrier's kid.
Yeah, right.
That one is mine.
We identified you.
That one is mine. All right, let's dive into the games. But I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
Hilarious.
And shout out to Steve Starks. I wish I could have chatted more. But,
Somewhere other than the bathroom.
But you know what? The 3-year-old runs the show.
Also, just an awkward place to run into people.
Not a good place to run into people.
Yeah.
But I could have stepped into the hallway or something.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like he was on his way out, but no, it's like, no, we got to go. Sorry. All right, Ben. Utah beats 14th ranked Oklahoma State on the road 22-19. BYU beats 13th ranked Kansas State at home 38-9. Rolls them. And I would say, as far as quality wins at the same time, Utah BYU, that might have been the best weekend ever.
I am more surprised Utah beat Oklahoma State without Cam Rising than I am BYU beat Kansas State at home. I am more surprised how BYU beat Kansas State than I am that Utah beat Oklahoma State on the road without Kansas State.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
I said during our football table or football roundtable that we had at JCW's before the season, one of the things I'm excited for Utah is to find the game that Kyle Whittingham wins that he has no business winning. And it happens every year. And last year it was Baylor. This year is very similar, right? Backup quarterback. You're just going to run the ball. You're going to rely on your defense. You're going to get a couple of stops, and you're going to win a game that you probably truly have no business winning. This is a Kyle Whittingham type of win. It's why he's a Hall of Famer. It's why he gets the big money. It's why his teams are competing for championships consistently. Whittingham is an A-plus coach because he wins these types of games. I have not seen a better 6 minutes of college football than what happened to end the first half for BYU against Kansas State and then open it on the ensuing drive to the point where Kansas State could not wait to leave Provo. They could not wait to get out of that town and get back on a plane and fly home and forget that they ever made the trip. That was a quit from an opponent I have not seen BYU force in a really long time, if ever in my serious college football watching.
Well, I agree with your take. I think you're right on. I think Kansas State did quit, but you're describing like this was a quintessential way for Kyle Whittingham to win big games because we've seen that script many times. I would argue that was both games. Okay. And the Utah-fication of BYU is nearly complete.
It's beyond where I thought they would be able to get. They're getting there.
That's how BYU apparently wins ball games now.
Yeah.
Gone are the days of Ty Detmer.
Yep.
Here are the days of a stonewall defense that's just going to punch you right in the dang mouth.
Yep.
Turn the ball over, turn the other team over a bunch of times. Special teams is all of a sudden a huge factor. I mean, not since the pain train has special teams been a factor at BYU. It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. That's how Utah wins ball games too. Do you realize that BYU blew out Kansas State blew them out, Ben. 241 total yards.
Yeah. 7 fewer minutes of possession.
241 total yards.
They had 3 fewer first down than Kansas State did.
When has there ever been a 20-point blowout? I get it. It's what, 19? But you get my point. A 20-point blowout.
29.
29? No, I'm shorting
Yeah.
them 10 points. Go. Wait, don't do math on the air. A blowout. Like they rolled the other team,
4
made them
touchdowns.
quit with 240. What did I say? 2 total yards?
Yeah.
That's bananas.
No, it was insane.
That is bananas. And let's give Jay Hill a ton of credit. He's a heck of a coach. How many times do you have to do it over and over again until we realize? But it is amazing that the Cougars rolled them the way they did.
Yeah.
The way that they did. And it'll be interesting going forward. Jake Retzlaff was not really all that special.
He was exactly what he needed to be.
The same way that Travis Wilson was never ever that special. You know what? But made a big play and did what they had to do, threw a couple of touchdowns. Bing, bang, boom. Kansas State wants to leave at the end of the third quarter. It's crazy.
I try to be happy about all of these wins, and I did have the creeping thought of, oh, man, I wonder where Jay Hill's the head coach next year. Like, that was my thought, unfortunately, because it's been that good, because the defense is that good. He's going to draw very serious attention from the Baylors of the world or whoever fires their coach and just says, like, hey, that guy turned BYU into Utah in a season and a half. Okay, how do we get him? Because he's been a good head coach previously, and now he's a really good coordinator. That was my one like creeping thought in my mind that like, I wish he was a little bit less. I wish they were doing a little bit less because we could keep him around longer. And maybe he sticks around. I don't know. But no, to your point, BYU dominated all 3 phases. Like, when was the last time BYU dominated 3 phases of a game? There are fluky, they had an okay special teams game because they kicked a bunch of field goals because they've had to. Or, okay, the offense was great because BYU's offense has been able to be great behind Zach Wilson or Jaron Hall. Or, yes, they have the one superstar on defense who can do a lot and create a couple of plays, and you think, oh, wow, Fred Warner's really a guy. Kyle Van Noy's really a guy. For it all to come together in a full picture at a time when BYU has needed it as much as they've needed it at any point in the last 10 years is pretty amazing. And you've got to credit Kalani. You've got to credit Jay Hill. And by the way, got to credit A-Rod, who I think there were a lot of questions going into the season whether A-Rod was a good offensive coordinator or had a lot of really good quarterbacks or 2 really good quarterbacks. He has turned Jake Retzlaff into a very serviceable player. That's a very serviceable quarterback who doesn't turn the ball over, who makes good decisions. I don't know what ball is coming out of his hand every time he throws it. He still had that ball in the end zone that missed by 15 feet for a wide open player. But then he finds Chase Roberts wide open. Doesn't throw him open, but recognizes exactly, hey, here's this little window. I can throw it there. He's not making mistakes. He's not over-relying on his legs. I thought he's really good, to the point where when BYU's defense did make his life easy, he took advantage of it. And what did they go? Scoop and score, touchdown, kick return, interception, touchdown. It was crazy.
Punt return, but yeah.
Punt return, punt return. And everybody did their part. Retzlaff didn't kill the momentum by doing something stupid. Wide receiver didn't drop a ball. Offensive line didn't false start. There was not a hold somewhere that killed the drive. You know what I mean? It was just like everything clicked the way it needed to click. And it was so easy to watch that, man, I told you Avery Johnson might be my favorite player in college football. He was awful. He had no idea what the coverages were. He had no idea where the pressures were coming from. He had no idea. And some of that is youth, but some of that is Jay Hill absolutely fooled him into not knowing. And then credit BYU's defense. The one way you lose to Kansas State really easy is to play from behind, because they can run the ball as much as they want. They had to throw to get in the game, and he can't throw, and that's how you beat him.
He can't throw. I told you that last week. He can't throw. There's no such thing as a dual threat quarterback.
I disagree with that, but okay, I get what you're saying.
No, I mean, okay, there are some unicorns that are dual, but to be honest, like think of Steve Young. He's not a dual threat quarterback. That dude is a stone passer that can also run. Highest quarterback rating in history, right? He's not a dual threat quarterback. He's a passer. Michael Vick was a dynamic passer. Lamar Jackson's a dynamic passer.
He is. I was thinking about this because if there is somebody who has Lamar Jackson type athleticism, and I understand this is a little bit hyperbolic, Avery Johnson's speed is stupid. Like, it's special,
He's the fastest
special.
guy on the team. He's
It's
faster than Lamar Jackson.
Really special.
Yeah,
It's really special. He can't throw.
He's not
Lamar
a passer.
can throw.
He's not a passer. Tim Tebow wasn't a passer. Taysom Hill
Yeah, can't pass.
he was not a passer.
Yeah.
So, you say dual threat guy. Well, I don't think that really exists. And if it does exist, we're talking about like one player, two players.
Yeah.
Ever. Because if you can really run, it makes passing a lot easier. So that doesn't make you a good passer. Nate Johnson was not a good passer, but Nate Johnson was so fast, he could loosen up the defense enough to complete some timing routes because you had to worry about him hitting the home run.
Yeah.
So, they didn't take away Avery Johnson per se, but they made him into a passer. And then the score really made him into a passer, and he's not a passer.
Yep.
He's a quarterback who can fly and pass just enough to make it so you have to respect it. But, I heard Riley Jensen talk about this a long time ago. That dual threat is not a thing. You're either a runner or you're a passer. And if you're a passer who can run a little bit, all the better.
Yeah. Tyler Huntley, by the end of his career.
Tyler Huntley, by the end of his career, 100, great example.
Good passer.
He was a passer.
Didn't run very much anymore.
Didn't have to.
Yeah. Right. He
Could.
didn't have to. It's really
but
nice,
that's
but he
the
didn't
point.
Have to.
Didn't have to.
Yeah.
When you're throwing 30-yard outs on a dime, why are you running a QB draw?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Your guy, who you love so much, Anthony Richardson, is going to fail in the NFL because he's not a passer.
Yeah, he's a runner.
He's a runner.
But hey, credit Jake Retzlaff, because before the season we would have said he's a runner, not a passer, and he has turned into much more of a passer. He is making enough throws right now that he doesn't have to use his legs to make plays.
Well,
It's
he's
a
playing.
huge plus.
The pressure's all off. You play with a defense that's awesome.
Yeah, right.
And
special teams, that's awesome.
Hands you hands you short fields and stuff. Well, yeah, that makes it easier. And then all of a sudden you're playing from ahead.
I think Retzlaff is an average college quarterback. Most college quarterbacks are bad. If you make their life easy, they're going to be fine. And BYU is making his life really easy right now. That's the good way to compensate for an okay quarterback. And I think that's who Jake Retzlaff is. He's an okay quarterback.
I think that's exactly the same thing that's happening at Utah.
That's great.
It's
what you want.
It's the same game. It was the most Utah way to get big wins ever.
Yeah, it was.
It was Witt. Witt basically won both games.
Now the question is, how replicable is it for BYU?
Why wouldn't it be?
I believe it is getting there. I believe it is.
SMU just put up 66 points.
Yeah, right. They did.
They couldn't get in the end zone against
No,
BYU.
BYU's had 2 games this season, 2 in their last 3 weeks, where they haven't allowed a touchdown. Like, the defense is absolutely for real.
Why wouldn't it be able to be replicated?
Well, if you can keep up the special teams, and then you can find some semblance of a run game, which
take that
BYU
punt
did with
return
Sione
out.
Moa.
That's the stupidest thing. It's amazing, the punt return. But it was the silliest play ever. that should be taken off the scoreboard.
But hey, when Utah was trying to figure out how to, was it their first year in the Pac-12 when they were trying to figure out how to win games and they actually made the bowl game their first? Was it Reggie Dunn? Had like 3 wins by himself.
The only reason they beat Colorado was because of him. And
didn't he have 2 kick returns for a touchdown in one game? It's
there was one of those against Colorado, but I think that was the next year because they lost the first year against Colorado. Because if they would have won, they would have gone into the Pac-12 title game. But they did. My point is, they didn't need that fluky punt return to win that game.
No, they didn't.
That wasn't the deciding factor. You know what I mean? That punt return was like something out of a movie. Whereas like a guy, what's that stupid meme that I brought up with Christian loves the show where the guy lands and he's like, does anybody notice? Does anybody notice? And when he realizes that nobody notices, all of a sudden he starts smiling.
Yeah.
Like he totally screwed up that punt as bad as you can. To turn sideways, to let it touch you.
Yeah.
All the things the coach tells you not to do, he did in one play.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden he finds the ball and he's like, oh, this isn't going so bad. And then all of a sudden he jukes some guy.
Yep.
And takes it all the way down. No wonder he vomited, right?
Yeah.
Is because he went from I am the GOAT of the world to I am a hero.
I'm never going to be returning another punt
in
in my
10
life.
seconds. Hilarious.
Great.
Hilarious.
Oh man, it was a fun game. It was a fun
great.
game to watch.
Good for BYU.
Yeah.
And you know what? Good for the crowd. I thought the crowd looked. I was not there, but I thought the crowd looked electric, really represented itself well. I mean, that building is amazing.
The game ops looked great. Yeah. The lighting is great. It feels like big business right now at BYU.
And after all those years in Independence where you had to watch the home field against UConn or whatever at home, where it was just the only people that win, and bless them, were the diehards who somehow could, talk themselves into that the game mattered something. You know what I mean? It was... Independence sucked. This is so much better.
Yeah, this is great.
This is so much better.
This is why you did it. This was what it was. You were all waiting for this, and Tom Homo delivered. And this is the culmination of it, what you saw on Saturday night.
I'm telling you, and I've said this for a few years now, if after he retires, BYU doesn't build Tom Homo a statue, it really is. I mean, he has been, if you look at his entire career, he has been an incredible athletic director.
Yep. He's truly one of the best in the country with a very difficult job.
Amazing. Yep. All right, stay tuned. We'll get more into the Utes. We kind of organically started Cougs there. We'll get more focused on what happened with Utah and Oklahoma State coming up in the top 3 stories at KSLSports.com. But make no mistake, we'll be talking college football throughout the day today, right here on a Monday, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Yikes, Ben. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You realize your guy Anthony Richardson yesterday was 10 of 20? 167 yards and 2 interceptions.
Well, he's a runner. He's not a passer.
That guy stinks. It's rough.
Hey, to be fair, I said he was going to get drafted high in the first round. I didn't say he was going to be a good player.
I did not buy into the fact that there are a lot of morons out there. Look at that.
Only needs one. You only need one. That's the best part about being a quarterback.
All right. Are we giving this away now, Christian? All right, let's do it. It's time for the KSL Sports Zone UFC ticket giveaway. Your chance to win a pair of tickets to UFC 307 at Delta Center on October 5th. Visit KSLSports.com/contest now. Click the UFC 307 ticket giveaway and enter the keyword for a chance to win. Today's keyword is...
The keyword is?
UFC.
Well, that's easy to guess.
Yeah, that's not too difficult. UFC. Well, we want to get this thing rolling off to a good start.
Well, that was easy.
Memorable.
I thought it would be something crazy.
Listen to the KSL Sports Zone every day this week for the best chance to win. New keywords will be revealed daily. Time for the top 3 stories of the day. KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. 2 locations to serve you, one on Winchester Street across from Fashion Place Mall, the other at Traverse Mountain in Lehigh. All right, where are we starting today, Christian?
Number 1, the Utes get the victory in Stillwater behind Isaac Wilson.
Everything I criticized about Utah in their win over Baylor has been flipped. And I credit Utah for that because my 2 big complaints were, where are these wide receivers we talked about? And why does the entire team go in the bin, the garbage bin, as soon as Cam Rising leaves the game? Because that's a cultural issue. That's not a Cam Rising so good issue because Cam Rising's very good. Cam Rising needs to be the starting quarterback when he comes back and is healthy if Utah wants to reach their peak and win the Big 12. They do need Cam Rising back. But they can't quit as a team just because Cam Rising's not on the field because Cam Rising's not that good of a quarterback. Cam Rising is not Caleb Williams in his prime at USC or John Elway in his prime at Stanford. He's good. He's not that good. And Utah on Saturday went in, said, we found out we don't have Cam. Whenever they found it out, we could speculate. But found out they didn't have Cam Rising and said, yeah, we can still beat this team. And then they pounded Oklahoma State in somewhat hilarious fashion to the point where Mike Gundy made the most panic quarterback switch I may have ever seen in my life. It was 10-3 at halftime, and he pulled his starting quarterback,
who been good,
who was having a career year at Oklahoma State. He was so flummoxed, both Gundy and Bowman, that they made a quarterback change in a 1-score game. It was wild.
I never bought into it was a cultural problem, and because it's just I think we're going to use different words to make similar points. I never kind of bought that word for the issue. I think it was all a game plan thing.
Okay.
I think the game plan for Cam Rising and the game plan for Isaac Wilson is totally different.
All right.
The game plan for Isaac Wilson is to give Mekhi Bernard the ball 25 times and let him dominate the game. And then Isaac needs to make the throws that he needs to make because he's a true freshman. And while I think, yes, he has shown potential, and I like the fact that he's very cool. A cool customer. He's not easily rattled. I think that's a really good thing. But I think the game plan against Baylor is, hey Cam, go do your thing and win the game. And then Isaac comes in and he can't run that game plan.
Sure.
He's not mature enough to do it, to use a nice word. He hasn't the experience, I guess, is what I'm
he hasn't started
looking for.
as many games as Cam has. Cam has a huge playbook at
Right.
Utah.
And Isaac, so he goes out against Baylor, and the wind comes out of the sails because he couldn't do that. And I do think the fact that they fell behind against Utah State was actually a really good thing in a weird way, because he had to go out and do it and not just rely on the run game or whatever. He actually had to go out there and make some plays. So showing that he's capable of doing it, I think, leads to the confidence and the collectiveness, which I do think he showed against Oklahoma State. But I don't think Isaac Wilson in any way, shape, or form won that game for Utah.
No.
I think the defense making Oklahoma State go 3 and out about a zillion times in a row.
Yeah.
And Bernard showing that he's a dude. And listen, I don't like admitting that I'm wrong. I was wrong that he is not capable of doing that.
Yeah.
100%. He ran over Oklahoma State.
Oh, I think you and I both had the opinion when he went into the transfer portal that, like, Utah can probably afford to lose him.
Right. And he came back, put on some weight, and said, no, I'm a dude.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go run over the Cowboys. And he 1,000% did that. I don't know. I don't know if I'm coming around on Utah having a good receiving core. I mean, I think Singer had a good game for sure, and he's put 2 good games in a row together. So I think that's probably a good sign. But I'm not going to say all of a sudden Herman Moore is walking through that door. But I thought the throw to Keithy was really good.
Yeah.
Even though it was single coverage, and that's probably a throw he has to make. He made it.
Yep.
And did not throw an interception, which he easily could have done.
Well, and it was after one of his interceptions on single coverage to Keithy where he just didn't throw the ball up. He corrected it.
And the defensive player is dumb.
Well, he fell down.
Yeah, didn't play that right at all. But you got to make it. I mean, that's the game right there. So give Wilson credit for making that throw and for being cool and collective and winning a ball game. But he by no means, that was not a Cam Rising versus USC thing where he led them to victory. Bernard should have gotten all of the game balls. Bernard and the defense should have gotten all of the game balls, and that was the story against Oklahoma State, in my opinion. That and Mike Gundy showing, like, speaking of not being cool, that dude got rattled for sure.
Oh, absolutely rattled him.
What's the matter with you?
And he's a really good coach. He is a good coach. He got absolutely rattled at halftime and lost all faith in his team. There were at least 2 plays and probably 4 where Isaac Wilson had to make plays as the quarterback, and he made both of them. And I tweeted, he has it. It doesn't mean he's a superstar. It doesn't mean he's going to the NFL. It means his team will believe in him to make the play when they need him to. And it was the one on 3rd and long when he tucked the ball and ran for 40 yards when Utah absolutely needed to at least flip the field and get some momentum, and then the throw to Brant Keithy to just give them a little breathing room, because you knew at some point Oklahoma State would break through, and they did. But that touchdown basically sealed the game, and it allowed Utah to fully pull their foot off the pedal and just kind of let the game finish. And it was really never in doubt, even when it was 22-19.
Yeah, it wasn't, but they shouldn't have let up. That's probably
They let up too early.
That's probably not a great sign, honestly. Well, no, great sign. That sounds too dramatic. But there's no way the coaches like that. I guarantee they're barking about that.
It was also a little bit their fault.
Yeah.
It was also they started playing a prevent defense, and of course, they moved the ball, which I get. Again, it won. You won. You just had to win. And the clock said you've won this game as long as you don't make mistakes. And they didn't make mistakes. Oklahoma State finally played well. We need to talk more about this game.
What's next?
Number 2, BYU dominated Kansas State in Provo and are now ranked in the top 25.
It should be 4-0. Win over a top 25 team, top 15 team. Rolled them at home.
The one half of the Big 12 title game, if not both, will run through the state of Utah in some fashion.
It looks that well. I mean, Utah's certainly in the driver's seat.
Utah is in the driver's
and
seat.
And so is BYU for that matter.
I think BYU is right there.
But Utah was the favorite, and their schedule is much easier.
It is. It's a lot easier. The next 4 weeks for BYU, especially after they play Baylor this weekend, are really tough.
I mean, it would be amazing to have Utah and BYU undefeated when they play each other. That has never happened. That came close to happening once, and BYU lost to TCU in 2008. And then it was a one-loss BYU team against an undefeated Utah team at the end, which I remember vividly because I had to totally rewrite all of the imaging for the station when BYU lost.
Yeah.
I was so upset, not because BYU lost, but because
it added a lot of work.
All of a sudden I had to spend the whole night rewriting imaging.
BYU should be higher in the top 25 list, but it doesn't matter. They're ranked. That's where they needed to be. They needed to be 4-0. They're obviously going to go to a bowl game, so life is good at BYU right now. I would feel very confident that one of these two teams is going to be in the Big 12 title game.
Well, it helps when you don't have a conference loss, which Oklahoma State now has one, and
Kansas State
as does Kansas State.
And then they play each other this weekend, so one of them's going to have two and probably is out of the conversation.
Now, Iowa State might be just a sneaky juggernaut.
So might Central Florida. They're good teams.
Oh, I don't. Well, Central Florida, I'm a little more out on them than I am Iowa State. Iowa State, the big knock on them is they can't put up points. They scored 52
and held them and had a great defensive performance.
52-7. Now, granted, Arkansas State, I'm sure, isn't contending for the playoff by any means. But I didn't think Iowa State was capable of scoring 52 points against like a high school team.
Oh, it might take 3 weeks to score 55 points or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've needed that.
So they might be the big game that we haven't talked about enough because both Utah and BYU have to play Iowa State.
Well, we got tomorrow. I'm excited for the Big 12 Power Poll because there's going to be a lot of shakeup, including I can no longer put Oklahoma State at number 1.
Well, yeah, you guys were wrong about the teams you moved up last week, and now you got to move them back down because they all lost.
Well, I had Baylor high. The other unfortunate loss was Utah State. I know we don't have them in the top 3, so I just want to throw them in here. Just absolutely collapsed after being up 14-0 and just gave away so many opportunities.
And that might kickstart the spiral unless they can really sell going into conference play.
Yeah.
So
it was bad because they were in total control of that game. They were running the ball, and then the defense absolutely couldn't get any stops in the second half, and offense did not execute on their half of the field. It was very tough.
All right.
Number 3, the Utah Hockey Club won their first preseason game last night, 5-3.
Utah comes out to center. McCartney steals it. It's a 2-on-0. McCartney, Carcone scores! It's the first ever goal in Utah Hockey Club NHL history. 2-1. Michael Carcone off the setup from Ben McCartney. Cooley moving in on his forehand, drag, scores! Logan Cooley lights the lamp on a penalty shot and gives Utah 4-3 lead. Final seconds melting away on what has been a fun, historic, and memorable night here in Des Moines. The first ever game for the Utah Hockey Club ends in a win. Utah is victorious in the NHL.
Friend of the program, Michael Carcone.
Oh, yeah.
Scored 2 goals.
How about that?
Including the first goal ever and then an empty netter to end the game after Cooley had put them ahead with the penalty shot. It was cool, man. It was just, shout out to our friend Jamil who put the broadcast together because I'm sure that was difficult because my understanding is like a week ago they didn't think they were broadcasting this game. And then the Hockey Plus thing launched and they were like, well, I guess we could probably figure it out. And they scrambled and they got it done. It was just cool to be able to watch.
Just to give Jamil a shout out, who produces the Jazz Pre-Half and Post, and now he's participating, putting together and running the hockey broadcast. I've seen that dude get thrown into the deep end like 100 times.
Yep, and he always comes out.
He always kills it.
Yep.
But he's always had these situations where it's like, okay, and go Jamil.
Yeah. Not that anyone cares that much about Jamil, but yeah, he's this like NASCAR fan from Atlanta.
From Georgia,
from Georgia, and now runs all of Utah basketball and hockey production in Salt Lake City. Would never guess it in a million years, and he just rules.
Oh, he's the coolest dude.
So they put it together. Very cool. And then the game was fun. They fell behind 2-0, including one of the funniest goals I've ever seen a team give up. There was a delayed penalty, so the Utah Hockey Club pulled their goalie because as soon as the other team touches the puck, the play ends. And you get the penalty kill. They missed a pass to themselves, and it went in the goal on the other end. I mean, the absolute worst-case scenario. I've never seen that happen anywhere. And it happened in their preseason game, and you thought, oof, this is going to be a long season. Like, they can't complete passes to each other. They're scoring on their own empty net in the second period. And then they just came on like gangbusters and absolutely dominated the second half, or the second and third period. So, really cool. And then tonight, Delta Center, first preseason game at home. I am going to try and go.
And Trevor Lewis is going to play
Trevor Lewis playing for the Kings.
For the Kings, which is pretty sweet.
And probably get to see Clayton Keller, didn't play yesterday. Probably get to see Mikhail Sergachev, who didn't play yesterday. We'll have our hockey insider, Cole Bagley, coming up at 11.
All right, more next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake and Ben want to remind you about Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255. Also want to remind you about Win Ticket Wednesday. Your chance to win big every week. This week, you can go see ZZ Top and Leonard Skinnard at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on September 26th. Listen to the KSL Sports Zone all day on Wednesday for your chance to win. I believe that's also going by Aerofest.
Oh, great.
Our good friends at the Arrow. Real quick, Ben, the Mountain West Conference. This is news today, reported about an hour ago. Are you ready?
Let's hear it.
According to Pete Thamel, who I don't even know who he works for anymore, ESPN. According to sources, the Mountain West is amid a significant push to keep its core of 8 schools together, which includes one-time payments of guaranteed money to the schools. Those include the large payments to both UNLV and Air Force, which have drawn interest from other leagues. I would add, quick editorial note, Utah State as well, according to reports over the weekend. The Pac-12 might be interested in Utah State.
Yep.
Pete goes on, this is the league's strategy to leverage the more than $120 million in exit fees it's expected to collect from the 4 departing members. The Mountain West is being aggressive in guaranteeing money, knowing that any decision about the Pac-12 would be based on projected numbers. Part of the Mountain West Conference pitch is that they'd guarantee no schools take a step back in media distribution, and they'd avoid exit fees. This is Gloria fighting back, Ben. I love this. Good for her.
I still think if one of these teams actually feels like it can spend the money to get into the Pac-12, it will. Utah State or UNLV, which are the 2 teams that were reported over the weekend to be gaining momentum.
I know. I hear you, except for they can keep all 8 together. The remaining 8, that's a viable league.
I need to know how much the Pac-12 is saying they can pay these teams.
Because, well, they're not paying these teams. That's the point.
No, once they get a TV deal and everything on the back end, not up front. How much are you actually going to make once you're in the Pac-12? What's that TV deal going to look like? Because no one's going to leave for something where there's never going to be money. These teams are leaving to the Pac-12 with the ideal that...
Why would the TV deal be any good?
I don't know, but Boise State was willing to leave.
Why would it be better?
Now, Boise State had all of their fees paid for them.
Yeah, and Boise State hates everybody else. They've been looking to stick it to the league forever. That's not a surprise.
But these 4 teams that have left for the Pac-12 must feel like there is something there at some point for them to make some money.
Well, yeah, because they're generating the money that Gloria is going to pay off the rest of the league with.
So that's what we have to figure out. How much is the Pac-12 telling Utah State or UNLV that they will pay them on the back end if they pay this $30 million up front?
Okay, let's say, so the Mountain West TV deal is about $4 million per school per year, a little bit more maybe. Certainly more now that there are fewer mouths to feed. That's another thing that she's selling right there. The Pac-12's TV deal isn't going to be much better.
I don't think it's going to be a lot better.
It's not going to be a lot better. So Gloria's sell is you're going to put the same amount of money into your pocket as the Pac-12 is going to with the TV rights, but we're also going to pay you $20 million on top of that.
The Pac-12
that Boise State isn't going to see.
The Pac-12 will get more money than the Mountain West Conference does from a TV deal. It's a better league. It's a way better product. Washington State, Oregon State, Boise State is a better football product than what the Mountain West Conference will add once they lose Boise State.
Okay, and the Mountain West is a better football league as currently constituted than the AAC, but yet they make more money. I mean, so it's I don't know.
Florida State, you have Clemson. That's
but
not really
even
comparable.
then, no.
AAC. Okay, excuse me. Okay,
and even then, the difference is negligible. It's $1.5 million here or $2 million there. They're not. We're not talking about $20 million school windfalls anymore for the Pac-12. Not even close.
And honestly, I don't know what is built in for the Pac-12 if they survive as far as promises for the college football playoff or promises going forward for what their eligibility is that allows you to make more money. Yep. It's early in that sense. But yeah, that's the conversation. That's all you're waiting for if you're Diana Sabo. How much money are you going to be able to pay me once I'm in the Pac-12? Is that more than the $30 million I'm paying right now to get out of the Mountain West Conference? You're offering me, $15 million a year? And this one-time payout from all the money you're generating from schools leaving for the Pac-12? If that plus the TV deal is more than what you can get in the Pac-12, fine, we'll stay in the Mountain West Conference. If it's not, I'm going to the Pac-12. I think it's a pretty easy math equation, actually. It's like
what? You're minus $40 million or plus 20?
Well, yeah, on the back end. You're still talking about money on the back end. It's like refinancing
No, this is
your
money
house.
on the front end. You have to pay $40 million to get in the league,
Right.
Or you get a $20 million check right now. That's a significant financial swing.
But are you making $5 million extra a year in your TV deal? Then it pays for itself. It's like refinancing your house.
There's no way it'd be $5 million
If you've
different.
ever refinanced your house, you pay your closing costs again. It stinks. Your money goes away early, but you're paying $300 less on your mortgage every month. Well, that adds up really quickly, and then by the end, 6 years down the line, you're way in the black. But you're in the red initially. That's the gamble they're going to have to take.
So that $5 million to make up the $20 million you would have gotten when you'd stay, that takes 4 years. And by the way, I'm not buying the $5 million, but just for the sake of argument, that's going to take 4 years, and then to make up the 40 on the other side.
Right, there's another 8.
That's another 8. So now we're talking it's going to take 12 years. There's no guarantee the Pac-12 would even exist in 12 years. So it's going to take you 12 years to break even. That's a big selling point. You can underplay that because you think it's a better football league, but that's a lot of dough.
It is a
and
lot.
That's a lot of time. Diana Sabo will not be the athletic director at Utah State in 12 years.
No, she will not be. And I'm not saying you obviously do this. I'm saying, you have to hear what the numbers are. If you feel like the numbers are really promising that it's not going to be 12 years, I would think about it. But if it's 12 years before you're in the black, don't do it. Now, the other part of this that matters is who's paying this $30 million to get out. If it's some donor who wants to cut a check, who cares? Fine, great. You want to spend $30 million for me? It's not money out of my pocket.
Except for, you know what? I always hated that argument because money is fungible. So if you donate $30 million for an exit fee, well, that $30 million from that donor could have gone to...
No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. No, because teams have money for the right thing. I will pay $40 million for the right coach. I will pay $40 million for the right player, or $2 million, or the right league to get into. But all $30 million isn't created equal. It's not like that's just sitting in a bank account waiting for them however they want it. If they don't use it to get into the Pac-12, then they just say, okay, well, fund the rest of your roster. They're not going to do that. That's not how it works. That's the difference. Someone, if they think the Pac-12 is worth that much, will do it. But even that person's going to be smart and need to know that there's finances on the back end that make it worthwhile.
And wouldn't have donated otherwise?
Not $30 million. Not $30 million. The same reason Utah's donations have gone way up since they've been in the Pac-12 and now the Big 12. And same with BYU basketball. Nobody was investing in BYU basketball when they were independent. And now they're in the Big 12 and they're saying, oh, yeah, we got $2 million for Yegor Dioman or Demeen, whatever.
Yeah, but that's going to NIL. Imagine if they had to pay that $20 million or that $2 million to that to get out of a league. I mean, you're making my point for me that you can take that money and use it elsewhere.
No, I don't think I am at all, because they weren't going to spend that money in independence. There was not that type of investment in the team in independence. Now, again, I know some of this has to do with NIL has changed in the last 2 years. I get it.
So if Ryan Smith had to pay $30 million to get BYU out of some league,
he would have done it.
He would have used, right, and then doesn't have the dough left over to spend on whoever. I mean, it's not like...
But he wouldn't have spent $30 million to keep a team relevant in independence. He would have done it for the right thing. He would spend $2 million on this Demeen kid. He's not. If Demeen says, "Now I actually want to go to Oklahoma or whatever, some other school to play basketball," that doesn't just mean that Ryan says, "Okay, we'll give the next kid $2 million." That's a really stupid way to do business.
He'd say, I'd love to bribe you to come to BYU, but I don't have any money left because I spent it all to get us out of this stupid league.
I'm just saying, if someone's cutting this check for $30 million to get you to the Pac-12, great, that's their money. It doesn't mean that money can be spent elsewhere. It might not be reserved for something else.
I think this is a great move. We'll see if it works. But I think this is Gloria's little counter move, and I think it's a strong argument.
She has let us down before.
Has she?
Yeah,
I don't think
her conference died last week.
It's not dead yet. And
it's dying.
I don't think she could have done anything about Boise. All that was all played out before she even probably graduated grad school.
We'll see.
Maybe not.
This is a Hail Mary.
Well, that's what they have to do.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely.
All right, stay tuned. We'll have Cole Bagley coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The Utah Hockey Club is now 1-0 in preseason play. They beat the Blues last night 5-3. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to talk about it. Let's get out of the zone phone. He covers the Utah Hockey Club for KSLSports.com. The one and only Cole Bagley. What's going on, Cole?
How are we doing, guys?
We're doing great. You got to watch the first game yesterday. Utah Hockey Club wins 5-3. Slow start, down 2-0, but battled back. What stood out?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that stood out was, how much fight and resilience this team has. A bit of a rough start, some weird things that were going on in the game. They give up a shorthanded goal early, and then they had that wild, completely unlikely goal early in that first period. I don't know if you guys saw it, but an open net goal that happened off a delayed penalty. That's not something that happens very often. I've actually never seen a goal like that in an NHL game. So just a weird start. They find themselves down 2-0, but they score 3 unanswered and end up winning 5-3. So can't ask for much more.
What was the Bears' take after the game?
He's happy with what he saw, especially from that top line, Cooley and Gunther and McBain. That line was working hard, and they finally cashed in on a couple of opportunities. That's a line that we might see as the second or third line once the official NHL season begins. And for the most part, just happy to see the resilience from the guys. They stuck to their game. They stayed physical. It was interesting. As I was watching the game early on, and you look at the score, it's 2-0 for St. Louis. I just thought there's not a whole lot of reasons that this team should be in the lead right now, just based off, how well Utah possessed the puck in the offensive zone. They were creating chance after chance, and they stuck with it, which is what Coach Bear kind of talked about, that they wanted to stick to that plan despite the fact that it wasn't necessarily yielding a lot of results early on, but they kept with it. They played hard. They were the more physical team, and at the end of the day, that finally helped them put pucks in the back of the net. And if you're counting that own goal, they scored 6 goals last night. So a lot to be excited about with this team.
Cool to watch Logan Cooley, Dylan Gunther, Carcone had the 2 goals, but maybe even as notable was who we didn't see, which was Clayton Keller. We didn't see Mikhail Sergachev. We didn't see Connor Ingram. Do we expect to see all of those guys tonight in Salt Lake City?
Yeah, so I don't have an official roster yet. I am waiting on that to hit my inbox here, hopefully in the next 15 to 30 minutes. But I am actually here at the Utah Olympic Oval. I'm at the ice level right now, and I've got eyes on Sergachev. I've got eyes on Keller. I've got eyes on Nick Schmaltz, Connor Ingram, Maverick Lamoureux, Lawson Krause. So, anticipating that each of these guys that are out on the ice tonight, we're going to see the vast majority of Utah's premier talent against the LA Kings as long as nothing changes. It should be pretty darn close to what Utah will look like once the regular season begins.
And Trevor Lewis going to play for the Kings, right?
He is. I have confirmation that Trevor will play, which is exciting. He's a Utah native. He played hockey here locally for a bit, and he's a great guy. I actually had an opportunity to meet him after he won the Stanley Cup. I think it was 2012 with the LA Kings. He's still with the organization. He normally would not play in a preseason game like this, at this point in his career, but it's an opportunity for him to play in an official NHL preseason game in front of a lot of family and friends, and his as a Utah native, just a cool opportunity.
I know Bear said that there was going to be one player who played Sunday and played Monday night also. Do we know who it is, and what's the thinking behind having that one player?
I'm not entirely sure who it is at this point. I haven't been told, and as I've scanned the ice this morning, I don't see anybody out there who played last night. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to see, a skater who was in the game last night play tonight. Maybe the coaching staff decided to give them the morning off and have them practice later, just because the team got in late last night. It was just a day trip to Des Moines. But I think if I was going to take a guess, I would say either Cole Beaudois or Tyler Yamamoto, simply based on the fact that I think there's a lot of good reasons to give one of those guys a shot to demonstrate what they have with both squads. For Beaudois, he's had a remarkable training camp. So he was selected number 24 overall in this year's draft. Wasn't really anticipated to be making any NHL noise for the next few seasons. But he's had a heck of a camp. He's come in. He's been unafraid. He's been confident. He's done everything that he does well amongst NHL skaters. And he looked pretty good last night. And so I think for him, we might see him as that player that plays twice just to get a full good look early on to see what this kid can do. For Yamamoto, this is a guy, a 7-year veteran who's bounced around the league a little bit. I believe he was a former first-round pick back in 2017. For him, he's on a tryout deal right now, so he's not assigned to the team outside of this training camp duration. So I think for him, it would make a lot of sense to see him twice, just to make sure that he's got chemistry with the team, that he belongs on this team. And so far, what I've seen from him in training camp is that he does. And I was able to ask Coach Bear, his thoughts on what he's seen from him. He said, "I see an NHL player. I see an NHL skater, a guy that has a lot of fight still left in him, and he's a remarkably fast player." I don't know if you guys were able to watch last night, but the way that he moves with the puck is very quickly, and he's very dangerous. He actually hit the crossbar in the game last night. So if I had to guess, it'd be one of those guys, but I should know here fairly shortly once we get that roster if we're going to see somebody who played last night play at the Delta Center tonight.
Well, we'll keep an eye on KSLSports.com for that and all of your great coverage, Cole. Thank you very much. We know you have to get to cover and practice, so appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. We'll see you soon.
You bet.
Nobody knows how to say Cole Beaudoin or Beaudois' last name. That's the great mystery right now, other than the actual name of the hockey club. But nobody knows how to say his name. There are videos of him saying it online. I can't replicate the word he uses to say his last name, but I've heard Beaudin, Beaudois, Beaudoin. He also says Canada himself. So I don't know what to expect every time it comes out of his mouth.
Is there one you like better? You're cheering for it to be?
I guess Beaudoin.
All right.
I don't think it's Beaudois.
I looked up a video of him pronouncing it himself, and he says Beaudoin. It almost sounded like Beaudoin, but
Right.
It's like Beaudoin. It definitely wasn't as
play
French.
it for us, because it is impossible to replicate unless you've lived in his household growing up. Which generally it shouldn't be that hard to say a French name, but French Canadian. But his is particularly unique. And then again, he says Canada, so I don't know what to trust coming out of his mouth. Does that help?
Hi, my name is Cole Beaudoin. I play for.
I don't know, man. It kind of sounds like he has an accent.
Hi, my name is Cole Beaudoin. I play for.
I will attempt to get somebody's name right. I fail often, but I think oftentimes we get a little too caught up in trying to be what am I looking for?
Culturally appropriate?
Authentic.
Okay, yeah.
Not culturally authentic.
Okay.
Like Qatar,
Cutter.
Yeah. Where Qataris pronounce it Qatar.
Yeah.
But somehow in America, we've got the pronunciation police yelling at us to say Cutter.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's pronounced Cutter. And it's like, maybe we're worrying a little too much about this. You know what I'm saying?
Can I hear it
like,
one more time?
I'm sure when we say Kirilenko, we're not doing it with the authentic Russian accent.
Sure.
And that's fine.
Beaudoin. I don't know.
Hi, my name is Cole Beaudoin. I play for the.
He says it too quickly.
Sounds like Beaudoin.
Yeah, I think it's Beaudoin.
So,
But now Cole Bagley's saying Beaudois. He
Listen.
said that's how PR told him to say it. We're never going to get it. Trade him. I know we just traded up to get him. Trade him.
but I'm sure even he's understandable, I guess is my point.
Yeah, for sure. He's not going to be offended by it. My understanding is these hockey guys are real low ego.
My wife has a name that people constantly mess up.
Yeah.
And she is very patient and does not expect it to be spoken in its original Persian accent.
Correct.
So I think we could get over it a little bit. I'm sorry, it's Cutter.
It's Beaudoin. It's what?
So anyway.
Okay.
We'll
Tonight,
do our
at
best
the
to
Delta
be
Center.
as accurate as we can. But you know what? I'm going to give Cole a break.
I am excited to hear what Kyle Whittingham had to say
Well-
about their performance this weekend because he is doing his presser now. We're going to try and play it for you.
We are, but let's go with a couple of notes because we can't play it live.
Right,
and there are
right.
some things that are coming out which we can discuss. And then hopefully, and as we say hopefully because we've got to get it turned around, we'll get it to you by 11:30. But Steve Bartle is there reporting what's going on, amongst others. Apparently, Whittingham said, regardless of who is under center at quarterback, the game plan is essentially the same now, which is interesting. And hold on, let me get to the beginning of it. Apologies, I should have done this first. Witt said Cam is cleared to play, but it's just a matter of him getting the velocity he needs on the ball again.
So if you can't grip the ball because you have a cut on your finger, wherever it is, or the dislocation, we don't know exactly what it was, I get it. If you can't grip it or you're wearing a glove and you're not used to wearing a glove, it's going to be really hard to play. I still think the second Cam feels comfortable playing, you play him.
Oh, I don't agree with that. I think that the preparation needs to be there. I'm bothered about the lying about the preparation. But if you can't practice, play Wilson.
And it sounds like he practiced last week. Cam did.
Yeah,
at least the first half of the week.
I don't believe that.
And then they said in the second half of the week, Isaac was getting all the ones.
Yeah, right.
So,
I mean, whatever you got to do. If you can't practice, you can't play. I mean, that's the Corinne Reed said that a couple of weeks ago, and we've known that for a while. But that's kind of Utah's thing. If you can't practice, you can't play. I don't think Cam should be an exception to that. So the second that he's healthy, play him. I don't know if I agree.
But Utah can lose to Arizona this weekend with Isaac Wilson at quarterback.
Absolutely.
And it's
they can
far
lose
more
with Cam
likely
at quarterback.
They're more likely to win with Cam than they are Isaac.
Depending on the preparation. Well, I think that's Witt's point with that second one that I read that I should have, or the first one I read, which should have gone second, is, and this is big news, I think, saying that regardless who's under center, the game plan is the same. The playbook is available to Isaac. I think that's a big deal.
Which credit Isaac for showing the ability to run a lot of the plays Utah wants to run.
If the pig farmer were your backup, maybe it would be true, I suppose, Ben, to give you credit that the second he's healthy, you play him. And no offense to the pig farmer or Nate Johnson, but things were that dire last year for the University of Utah. They just beat Oklahoma State on the road with Isaac Wilson. That's a pretty good win. And again, it's not him who did it, but he didn't lose it for him either.
No, I quite like Isaac Wilson. I'm pretty high on Isaac Wilson. I think his future is extremely bright. Like, I think Utah has their quarterback of the future on the roster, and he's proven that he can be that.
But Arizona should score some points.
They're going to score, and I have not seen Utah. I mean, they didn't score points easily against Oklahoma State. Now,
no, they did not.
That was not their goal. If they were really wanting to go out there, they wouldn't have run Mike Mitchell into a loaded box 18 times in a row on 3rd and 3. I don't know why they kept doing it. I hated that they kept doing it. That play calling didn't make any sense other than they didn't trust Isaac Wilson to roll out and make a decision. Because that's a perfect situation where you have him roll out.
Well, they did that in the first quarter, right? And Wilson botched it.
So they didn't do it again.
Yeah.
And that's where Cam Rising's great. And he's going to be just fine, and we'll make that play every time.
But that's the true freshman thing.
So that's where there is a difference in the play calling so far, and I don't actually believe that the play calling or the
I don't believe
the same.
that 100% either. But, I mean, I do think that comment said something.
But that's also why I would play Cam Rising. Now, one of the things that has really helped Utah right now, and you touched on it early in the show, we didn't really get a chance to talk about it, is that if Cam Rising's back this weekend, I'm still giving Mekhi Bernard the ball 20 times.
25.
Yeah, why not?
He got the ball 25 times this week. That's a good number.
They know Utah was only going to run the ball, and they couldn't stop it. Now, maybe Oklahoma State stinks. Or maybe it's early season Oklahoma State stinks, and they'll be fine by the end of the year. It doesn't matter. Utah already won that game. They don't have to worry about Oklahoma State until at the earliest, the conference championship game, if Oklahoma State gets there, and I have my doubts. But Mekhi Bernard's a guy.
It would appear so.
Just give him the ball.
Yeah.
Utah's at its best when their running back is really good and Cam doesn't have to do a whole lot. Fine, make Cam do less. That's good. Make Cam never roll out again so he's getting pushed into the Gatorade cart. Great. That means he's not getting hurt. I want Cam Rising to sit back, make a couple of easy throws, make the defense know that he can throw the ball, and then Mekhi Bernard has 115 yards on 18 carries next week. Great. That's the ideal situation, and that is actually the secret blessing of Cam being hurt the last 2.5 weeks, is that they have had to rely on Mekhi Bernard. Mekhi Bernard knows there's going to be an extra man in the box every single time because they're not that worried about Isaac Wilson throwing it, which is why even Brant Keithy's getting single coverage, as good as Brant Keithy is, and Utah's still been able to move the ball on the ground when they needed to.
All right, we want to remind you to nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Also, you can win lunch from the KSL Sports Zone and Cafe Rio on Taco Tuesday. Listen every Tuesday for your chance to win a $20 Cafe Rio gift card. Learn more about Taco Tuesday and the great deals available every week at CafeRio.com. If we get it in time, we will play you Coach Witt's press conference coming up next, but we'll continue, of course, to talk college football on Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I want to remind you to join Hanson Scotty on Thursday from noon to 3 at My Hearing Centers, 8941 South 8941 South, 700 East. Ben, I really get a kick out of we used to call them deflections, where you've been basically caught at something, but you deflect. I can't remember who was it. It was like Paris Hilton who got busted with cocaine or something, and she said her dog got it there or something. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like hilarious. And not that I'm following the story all that closely, but some writer was sending inappropriate pictures to RFK Jr.
No, some writer was having an affair with RFK Jr.
And there were inappropriate pictures involved. But his excuse now, his deflection was she quote bombarded unquote him with those pictures.
I couldn't stop her.
It's a pretty hilarious. Most deflections are hilarious in their absurdity.
Yeah.
And this is 100% one of those.
Do you know what soft launching is? A soft launch.
Yeah.
So a soft launch on social media is you don't tell anyone you have a girlfriend, but all of a sudden you just drop it in your Instagram stories of you with a girl on vacation.
Okay.
It's an obvious okay, this is a person who's dating someone and they're letting everyone know. This woman, what's her last name? Olivia,
it doesn't matter.
Whatever. Her
Newsy,
her fiance, this guy Ryan Lizza, soft launched their breakup on social media. He said, due to my ex-fiance being involved with RFK, because he's also a political writer. He said, I'm no longer covering this story, but he called her his ex-fiance. That's how he announced that they were breaking up. So the opposite of a soft launch, he did the breakup, which good for him. Pave a new way.
Let's get to Coach Witt. We have the sound, and we're ready to roll. Here is Kyle Whittingham and his weekly press conference.
All right, good start to the Big 12 conference play. In our game down or over in Stillwater. Proud of our guys. A lot of positive takeaways from that game. Obviously, the freshman quarterback, Isaac Wilson, did what we needed him to do, took another step forward in his progression. And for him to go into, our team, but him playing quarterback into the number 14 ranked team in the country's stadium, hostile environment, and come away with a win, that was great to see happen. And so very proud of him. Proud of Mekhi Bernard for what he accomplished. Now, obviously, he doesn't accomplish that without some really good stuff going on up front with our offensive line. So that was a big positive. Defense was completely smothering for about 3.5 quarters till we had a few breakdowns in towards the end of the game. Handled the heat conditions, which it was pretty hot, but you got to be able to play in whatever environment you're in. But our guys did a good job not letting that bother them. Didn't flinch, didn't phase them. So a lot of positive takeaways, and bottom line came out with the win, 1-0, right where we wanted to be, obviously in the after the first conference game. Credit Oklahoma State there at the end. They were scrapping all the way to the very end and created a little drama for us at the end, which didn't need to happen, but give them credit for continuing to battle. Thought we were the more physical team. I think the rushing statistics are indicative of that and paint that picture. And so that was our kind of game. Rush for well over 200 yards, throw for a couple hundred, 450 plus total low, held them under 300. Didn't win the turnover margin. That's another week where we dodged a bullet. That will catch up to us if we can't get that rectified. We got to get the turnover margin in our favor, and it starts with taking better care of the football on offense and creating more takeaways on defense. That's how you do it. It's pretty simple. What else? Red zone production, not enough. We Offensively, we left points out there again, and that's going to catch up with us as well if we don't get that corrected and become better in the red zone. Let's see what else was positive in that game. Fourth down conversions. And that really, fourth down conversions are almost tantamount to a takeaway, and so that balanced things out. Being -2 in the turnover margin, but converting 4 out of 5 fourth downs, that compensates for that in a way. It's not exactly the complete compensation, but it sure gives you an opportunity to extend drives, and like I said, instead of them getting the ball back, you retain possession. So that was a big deal for us, being 80% in the conversion rate on fourth down. So Arizona coming into our place this weekend, night game. We all know that Rice-Eccles is a real tough environment for opponents, especially at night. They got us pretty good last year, so we hope to play much better this year than we did last year. No updates on any injuries. Nothing was season-ending coming out of this past game, and so really nothing to talk about there. I can say that Isaac and Cam was a right before kickoff decision. It was not, we weren't trying to be gamesmanship or any of that stuff. It was, let's see how Cam functions in pregame, and then we decide who gives us the best chance to win. And so that was the decision made literally, 20, 25 minutes before pregame or before kickoff. So, okay, I know I got a guy over there who wants to ask some controversial question. So, Justin, go ahead. Not this week? Oh, you giving me a break. Nice. Okay, what is it? Lob a softball at me.
He did say great win on Saturday.
He did?
Good win for the program.
Wow. Thank you. That's rare coming out of your mouth.
And it says, last year we struggled to Arizona, Fafita, and McMullen quarterback receiver combo. How are you game planning for this year to make a difference?
Well, we got to come up with something. There's no doubt about it. Fafita is a terrific quarterback. Had a great game against us last year. The McMillan kid is a terrific receiver, leading the conference in yards per game, in the top 2 or 3 or 4 in receptions per game. So he's a big target, big catch radius. It reminds me a lot of Devon Bagley. 6'5" and a couple 100 pounds, 210, and runs exceptionally well. Great body control. He's a big time receiver. So we got to have an answer, and hopefully, we'll, like I said, play better than we did last year.
Kyle, can you tell us what Cam wasn't able to show you before kickoff?
Not enough velocity on the ball, plain and simple. Just not able to spin it like he needs to, and we didn't want, just didn't have that zip on the ball, and we had structured things in practice during the week where there was a possibility that Isaac would be the starter, so we gave him the 1 reps a couple of the days. Gave Cam some time off later in the week to see if we can get those, get him feeling better, and then test him pregame. That was the plan. So we followed the plan. There was nothing that surprised us, and made the decision we made and went with it.
And then do you anticipate a similar plan this week?
We'll see. Hopefully he's further ahead, and if so, then maybe that clears the picture up sooner. So can't give you an answer right now till, again, we see him throw.
And staying on that a little bit, with how well Isaac is playing, does that give you a little bit more leeway with that, or do you try to rush Cam back? How does that kind of work in your mindset?
First of all, it's great to see Isaac's progression, but the bottom line is, whichever quarterback gives us the best chance to win is the one that'll play. And obviously we're not going to put Cam out there if there's a health risk that the medical people haven't cleared. And so that, but he was cleared for last week as far as just, you can use him, and just up to you guys what decision you make. So we're not going to, I think we're past that point where you have to worry about re-injury or anything like that. So hopefully, knock on wood.
Arizona's coming off of a bye week. A couple weeks ago, they got pretty thoroughly beaten. What did you see on the film that you might be able to replicate? What were their problems in that?
Well, K-State ran the ball really effectively. It was 200-plus yards, and I think Arizona only had 40, 50, 60 yards of rushing, and that's damaging. I mean, when you can rush for a bunch and not give up much in the run game, that allows you to control the game a lot of the time, and that's exactly what K-State did. K-State did a really nice job defensively, mixing up coverages, bringing pressure, dropping 8, effective. They got good pressure with a 3-man rush at times, and so they had a good plan going in and slowed them down. But to me, the big key was their ability to control the football through the run game.
Dorian Zinger's had a couple of good games. What have you liked about his play, and how valuable is it for Isaac to have that reliable option?
I've liked everything about Dorian's play, and very valuable. And I think what you saw Saturday was more indicative of what we should be able to utilize him, week in and week out. That was his most productive game of the season on Saturday, and he's a complete player. He'll block for you. He's made some big blocks for us this year in the run game. He's tough. His hands are incredible. I mean, you saw some of the catches he made, that comeback where he scooped the ball up literally inches from the turf, the one he pinned against his head. So he's a big-time talent, and I'm sure he'll be extra motivated this week because he was on the Wildcats a couple years ago.
What specifically have you liked about Isaac's progression?
Everything. His confidence, his command of the offense. He's got, I've said before, he's got the it factor for a quarterback, and that's so critical. You got to have the guy that has that it factor, that leadership, and the players really sense it. They love playing for him. I mean, they got a ton of confidence in him, and he's fearless. He's an excellent runner. You saw him rip off that 40-plus yard run, which is huge at the time, and so we're real pleased with really every aspect.
Are you surprised how Mekhi Bernard is taking command of this running back room? That was your biggest concern coming into the year, and look quickly right now.
Yeah. He's right there at or near the top of the league in rushing. He's been a workhorse for us, and that was probably a little more than we should utilize him. He had 25 carries. I said in the week prior, 15 to 20 is probably more a realistic figure for longevity's sake. But when we needed him, he was there and answered the bell every single time, made some huge runs. That 60-plus yard run was incredible. I mean, the tackles that he broke and that move he put on the one kid, and then the acceleration down the sideline. I mean, he's a big-time back.
Kyle, you sort of mentioned heading into last week's game that you wanted to improve tackling and just key in more on the run game. How do you feel like you guys did in that avenue against Oklahoma State and so forth?
We were just okay tackling. We weren't great. And we tried to be single-digit tackles, and we were 15 missed tackles, single-digit missed tackles, and we were at 15. So above our quota. And so, we had like a couple plays where there was 4 on one play, and so it added up quick. But that being said, I thought we did a nice job versus their run game. And the Gordon kid is a big-time back, and we were able to keep him in check for the most part. And that was a huge reason for the outcome is our run defense.
Now, you've always said that around the 4-week mark, somewhere around there, that you kind of know who your team is. Do you feel like you have an identity? Do you feel like who you are, and how do you assess it right now?
Yeah, I think 4 to 6 weeks. 4 is the earliest you can, and 6 weeks is probably by then you've got enough perspective based on other matchups and teams you've played, and they're playing other teams, and you just get a better feel for it. I think this team is incredibly passionate and has a ton of energy, excellent leadership. Love coaching them. I mean, it's a pleasure to coach these guys. We got guys that are so competitive and tough. The 2 D tackles come to mind, Junior and Keanu, who are such great leaders for us. Kareni when he's available, and hopefully we get him back soon. Of course, Cam, Isaac when Cam's not in there, and so it's a team that appears to love football and love what they're doing, and they love every aspect of it. They love to practice, love to get in the weight room. I mean, they're all in. So it's one of those teams that you really enjoy being around, and it has a lot of upside.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, when Cam is in under center, your offensive identity is pass heavy and so forth. How do you, I guess, measure your offensive identity now that he hasn't been able to play a couple of games, and when he is able to come back in, is there more things that you would like to be able to do since he has only played 2 games.
Well, Isaac pretty much has the playbook available to him now, so there's not really a lot, as much difference as you'd think in the play calling or the game plan based on who's a quarterback. Now there was 3 weeks ago, but this week it was very similar, not exact, but very very close to what Cam would have had at his disposal, and so going forward. It's almost to the point now. In fact, I would say it is to the point where, regardless of who the quarterback is, it'll pretty much be the same plan, and just whichever one's going to give us the best chance to win, that's the guy who runs it.
It looked like the offensive line got some of the best push of the season so far, at least in the run game. Where are they strongest right now, and maybe still working on some stuff?
Good question. I think there was outstanding push, particularly early in the game. Now we did wear out a little bit at the end, and we were more leaning on people than knocking people off the ball. But it was like 140 degrees on the turf, and it takes its toll. I mean, both teams are out there and so forth. But those big offensive linemen, they seem to maybe dehydrate the quickest. But I thought they controlled the line of scrimmage. We controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. But I would say that our run blocking took the biggest step forward in that last game. Pass protection was still decent. We gave up 2 sacks and a couple hurries. But I just think overall, through 4 games, I believe they've taken a step forward each week.
140 degrees on the field, Ben. And on the TV broadcast, they talked a lot about that. My question to you is, if you're Coach Whitt and you know you're going to spend a lot of time on national TV and in those conditions, are you really cognizant about what color of shirt you're wearing as to not show off the perspiration?
Yes.
Me too. And I made that mistake once at a wedding. It was in Minnesota in the summertime, Ben, and I wore a blue shirt.
Sean Miller used to always wear white shirts and would soak through them immediately
and
in Arizona.
Look just gross. You know what I mean?
Black shirt, dude.
Yeah. I don't even remember what Whitt was wearing, so that's probably a good
Whitt
sign.
had a black shirt on.
Did he have a black?
Yeah, he had a black shirt on.
You gotta
think Whitt did. Gundy also. No, Gundy was wearing orange, I think.
You got to think
and
about
Gundy
that
was
stuff.
looking sweaty. I think Gundy was sweaty for a lot of reasons.
Because they're going to put you on TV the whole game. So you can't. Sean Miller is the perfect example, Ben. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
You can't be pitting out guy all the time.
Real easy.
Or heaven forbid you get some backside sweat going. You know what I mean?
They let you wear whatever you want. Just wear something dark.
I always wondered that about Phil Mickelson because he had the swass. You know what I mean? And it would like slowly creep up the shirt, and it was like you gotta put on something else, dude. This is way too obvious.
Okay. I thought we were going to avoid the burrito conversation, but we've gone into
no. I'm talking about the
Phil Mickelson's sweatiest areas. So I guess everything's on the table.
Hey, it's not my fault, dude. Everybody watching notices. Don't blame me. I wouldn't want to be that guy. That's the point.
Put a diaper on, Phil. Nobody will know.
No, he just needed some like.
That might make it worse.
Honestly, it's not Phil's.
Do diapers get sweaty?
It's not Phil's fault. We all
worn one in 36 years.
We all sweat. If you're playing 18 holes in the humid heat, Ben, you're probably going to have some similar issues. You've just got to think of these things.
I don't know. I wear pants every time we golf. I don't sweat that much.
All right, stay tuned. Wrapping up the show next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This segment brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255, Peach Doors and Windows. We had, you can always tweet at us, at Jake Scott Zone, at Ben's Hoops. Our friend John says, talking about the Utes, says, first, Utah's defense? Damn! Second, a healthy Cam beats OSU by 30. Isaac can be great. Looking forward to it, but there is no quarterback controversy here.
I agree.
Yeah. Then John adds, he says, sorry, I was late to the show, but did you talk about the Kansas State burrito? No, we were avoiding that. Other than to say, can these stupid online bets that lack accountability and people get a good, can they just go away?
At least the guy played into it a little bit. He made a joke out of it all weekend.
Yeah. And then what would the other dude offer to get baptized if BYU beat Kansas State?
Convert.
And he kind of played into that too, right? But so it's fun, but also quite dumb.
I was super disappointed in both Kansas State and Oklahoma State.
I don't think either team played their best, no.
No, I mean, the quarterback play was bad. I thought, man, if you're going to beat Kansas State, this is the chance to do it because Avery Johnson, I thought, looked like he was going to develop into a star in college football. And there was all the conversation that Will Howard left Kansas State to go start at Ohio State because Avery Johnson was coming up behind him. It's like, man, that wasn't true at all. That's not accurate in the slightest. Ohio State had $2 million to spend on a quarterback, and he was the one who took the money. And Johnson's fine. He's got some tools. He's good against Arizona. But, man, I just thought they were both really, really disappointing teams. And I'm just talking about this as now a person who covers the Big 12 and had big expectations that this conference would hopefully be able to compete at a higher level and not match the SEC or the Big 10, but at least be a little bit more respectful. And Utah and BYU just embarrassed these teams. Just made a joke out of both of those teams. I mean, to that offensive performance where you had 3 points going into the final 6 minutes of the game at home as the number 14th ranked team in the country, going up against the other team's backup quarterback who's a true freshman. How was that possible?
Well,
Utah State had a better offensive game against Utah than Oklahoma State did. A lot better.
Utah did that to USC last year, though.
They did.
So
Witt can do this.
It's not like it's unique to the Big 12. I'm with you. I wasn't blown away by Oklahoma State or Kansas State, but
this is supposed to be a top 15 Oklahoma State team that finished the year well last year. A lot of guys coming back this season. Doak Walker Award winner. Man, Ollie Gordon, that DUI shredded him. He's never, and I don't know if it was before that. I don't know if it's Oklahoma State's offensive line, but it has just been a horrendous. That happened late June, right before we went to a Big 12 Media Day. Was that late July? Late July. He's been an afterthought ever since then. It's crazy.
All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Jacob Van Hansen, Scotty G coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.